Hi, this is Shu with a review of the LeBron 18s. Yep, they're finally out. Interestingly, LeBron isn't wearing them in the playoffs currently. He is still wearing the 17s. This one's colorway is called the James Gang. I suppose it's supposed to represent some sort of family member names and whatnot, but these are colorful, what they used to call Bel Air colorways in the past, I think, for some of the fresh Jordans. The LeBron 18s, I've been looking forward to this because they've actually tried something innovative, something that's not been done before for Nike basketball shoes cushioning systems. Usually, what LeBron tried to do was try different kinds of max volume zoom air, and then try to have max air with zoom and whatnot. They tried multiple options, but apparently LeBron loves the max volume air, max air, and they've implemented the 270 Air Max in the 17s. So this was actually a better move instead of having a very rigid max volume air sole, which was harder than a normal Air Max. So that's a good departure from that, and they're sticking with the max air. But here's the thing about max air. At the core, as you can tell, it's more like a tubing around your foot, and at the core you just have some sort of foam cushioning. So the pillar is the core foam. So it's more like a tubing around your foot. So when you're striking at the core, you're actually landing on just foam instead of the air cushioning. But of course, it takes up a large space around your heel, so it's supposed to act better than having pillars or some other type of materials to hinder the air chamber. So this was a nice move on Nike's part, but what they were missing in the core, what they did with the 18 was they slide, as you can tell, the core. This isn't a foam anymore. You can tell this is Zoom Air, or what they used to call tensile air in the core. A full-length Zoom strobel has been included, a Zoom Air, but it's not exactly strobel. What the strobels are used for KD13s, 12s, and the Zoom Universe, and you can tell that it's kind of elevated, and you need a specific type of insole that has a cavity in the core, so the insole will stick and would not slide back and forth. But what they did with the 18 is they're just sticking with a normal Ortholite insole, which is slightly thicker than usual and slightly denser than usual, which is good. LeBron's always come up with good Ortholite insoles, and as you can tell inside, it's not exactly Zoom strobel, because you can tell the vague silhouette of the Zoom, but on top of it, they do have a strobel board with it. So it's Zoom strobel with a strobel on top, so that you won't have to cut in the core make a core cavity to make sure the insole sticks. If you try switching to these kind of flat Ortholite insoles to shoes like the KD 12, 13s or the Zoom Universe, you'll feel that your foot, because of the elevated Zoom Air, you will see your foot sliding with that plastic smooth surface of the Zoom Air inside the shoe. So this is a good change to add strobel to the Zoom strobel. Good job there. And also, one issue I've had with a Zoom strobel setup is that because the Zoom strobel is at the core, right there around there, so there'll be some stitching to connect the Zoom and the midsole. So those stitching sometimes can get painful, because you can actually feel the stitches on your toes when you're stepping hard and scrunching your toes and moving around in the shoe. So the Ortholite they provided was not enough. They changed or fixed the problem by providing a firmer insole for the KD13s. I initially thought they were disgusting, that it was a mistake, that they were being lazy, or it was puzzling, but the mystery is solved, that they needed a firmer insole to make sure those stitches or thorny parts will be shielded from your toes. Your toes will be shielded from those parts. So they had a firmer insole. But then the firmer insole, the good thing is that it evenly distributes the force. It evenly distributes the force in such a way that you don't feel those pinching sensations. But at the same time, what it did was it kind of killed the purpose of having that cushiony, pillowy Zoom Air ride. So some people would have liked this, some people would have hated it. I was kind of in between because I do see the pros and cons. So what they did was they have the Zoom Air inside the Max Air with the Zoom full-length Zoom that actually works without giving you stitches. I mean, giving those stitch little bits sticking to your toes. As you can tell, the Zoom Air is here, and it doesn't start. One thing is the Zoom Air doesn't start from the tip. It starts somewhere here because it's got to be inside that hollow point of the Max Air. But at the same time, if you can tell, it's the outsole itself, it's a little bit hollowed in, concave, so that there's a little bit more space instead of just adding extra weight there. So that's always a good thing. And also, there are other shoe brands in the past, like N1, when they had this harmonics cushioning setup. What they did was, it wasn't about all the cushioning, but rather the space in between provided or helped provide some extra level of cushioning or shock absorption. That's what they did with the Jordan 30s as well. Russell Westbrook loved this shoe because even if they didn't have any zoom or any cushioning in the heel, they did have this little concave or this little groove in the core, so that the cushioning effect could be felt to a certain degree. So it's good. So it's triple layer of cushioning: the Max Volume Air, and the Zoom Air at the core, and this little elevated space of vacuum that provides added area for the materials to expand, or to have some area to prevent the core from just touching the floor and sending that impact straight away to your foot. Another interesting factor is, reportedly, the tech specs show that this is the biggest max volume aerosol that they've used for basketball sneakers. But I don't know. These are both size 9s. I feel like the 17 is a little bit thicker, and upon wearing, I tried wearing them on each foot, but they felt a lot firmer and a lot higher than the 18. So the 18 gets the victory. Maybe it's because of the Zoom Air at the core. Instead of just having a hard foam, the Zoom Air is compressed, so you feel that extra level of lowered level of. It lets you feel that your foot is lowered a little bit, and because it's going to be inside the core of the Max Volume Air, you feel lower to the ground than just having a Max Volume Air sole with a thick chunk of foam in the middle. So this is good. This is a wonderful, harmonious blend of the Max and Zoom Air. Maybe it's because of the core Zoom Air and the little space here. It feels like the Max Air is a lot softer and more stable than the 17. So good job, Nike. I'm really pleasantly surprised. And also in the midsole, they've actually used Cushlon reportedly, so it adds to the level of cushioning that you feel for shoes like the Zoom Universe or the KDs. They've actually tried to keep it low to the ground, so the midsole material was like a non-factor because most of the cushioning was basically dependent on the Zoom Strobel. The KD even added an extra layer of Zoom on the forefoot to provide you with an extra cradling, cushiony, pillowy sensation, but you don't really feel it that much. This one, even if it's just a single full-length Zoom layer, it feels good. It's low to the ground. I think it's one of the LeBron shoes, the recent LeBrons. I mean, going back all the way to the 15, this was really high off the ground, and the Zoom Max Air on the forefoot was hard and rigid as H, and yeah, it was not low to the ground, and you could feel the shock just being sent directly to your foot when you strike hard or land hard on either the heel or the forefoot. The same kind of cushioning was implemented in the 16. It was changed a little bit, but I couldn't feel a world of difference. In some cases, it felt even harder than the 15s. So the Max Zoom experiment was a failure, and this is a good step forward for the LeBron series. So in terms of cushioning, I have to give this very high grades. I think this is one of the better Nike cushioning setups that we've had in the past. For the full-length Zoom Strobel unit shoes like the KD12, KD13 at the Zoom universe. The problem I had was that the heel to toe drop was there, but it felt somewhat insufficient. You always feel that the heel is sinking a little bit more than the forefoot. This one, you will not have that issue at all because of this elevation and the zoom air. So it helps bring your foot lower to the ground. At the same time, it's elevated, and at the same time, the circumference or the surrounding areas of the heel cushioning provides a level of elevation. And I guess in some cases it works like a heel cup, because it contains your foot. It's containing your foot while your foot is there, sinking a little bit, and the tube is raised a little bit to surround your foot. So it's a good cushioning that works for both light, smaller players as well as heavier players, because even if the zoom air is compressed, the max air will be providing that level of resistance. And for the lighter players, you will feel the zoom air working more efficiently, while you'll feel your feet sinking perhaps just a little bit enough to feel that the zoom air, the max air, is not entirely taking up the whole chunk of space to keep you elevated from the floor. So it's a stroke of genius. And the outsole pattern is similar to the 17s, but what's interesting is they did divide the patterns. They do have a divider every now and then. And these little cuts or slits in between the patterns actually can be quite a huge difference maker in terms of the traction. Instead of just having a one uniform waffle pattern, you do have the little cut out pieces in between, and that actually helps with the grippiness a little bit further. But it's very similar to the 17s. Some people might have problems. I don't know. Personally, I did not have problems with my LeBron 17s, but some were complaining that it was not as resistant. It was not as good as the 16s and whatnot, but I felt it was similar, and it just ate up as much dust as the 16s. I like the forefoot pattern, but unfortunately, when you go to the heel, there's this little, I won't even say nodules, because these are more like little tiny bumps or pimples. This cucumber surface type of thing. It's good. We've seen these spikes work in the Zoom Flight 5. Also we've had Zoom Brave, but they work because they work in tandem with a circular crop circle pattern. But here, with just the spikes alone, I feel like they're gonna, once they start wearing off, this is gonna bottom out. I guess the outsole pattern is going to wear out quite fast. But one saving grace is that these little holes and these little elevation make sure that there's a large surface of the heel touching the floor constantly, instead of just landing on one bit or piece of the outsole where you will start sliding if you were just dependent on one or two nodules for the traction. The problem I've had with the Jordan 34 is because the Eclipse plate made the surface a little bit flat, and made sure that not a huge area of the outsole is touching the floor, but rather little pinpoints are touching, and when that happens, you know you're going to slide. So in that sense, there's a system, this concave this little hole, this little groove, does the job of making sure the outsole touches a greater surface area. So that's good. But of course, durability is going to be a serious issue. Do not ever play outdoors in these, because you're going to grind them out quite fast. The heel cup is inside the shoe, and at the same time, they've added a huge heel counter around it. It's good, and it's quite nostalgic, because this is the similar type of heel cup pattern or design that we've had with the first LeBron James signature shoes, the Zoom generation. So this is a nice little nod to the very beginning of LeBron's journey with Nike. It's got a neoprene inner booty. It's got a very thick padding along your Achilles, which is good, like a little two-fingered padding that's riding alongside your Achilles heel, so that's good. And also right above your ankle, so it's minimal but good. And the thing is, they tried to do what they did with the LeBron 14s. It's not low, it's not high. They tried to have a bit of both worlds, but the thing is, if you want to go low, you gotta go lower. This part if you wear socks that exposes your ankle, you will get some chafing. Yeah, these are not, I mean, they're not sharp, but they're not soft. So you will feel that a little bit, especially when you're moving side to side and when you lace them up tight. So make sure you wear the thick socks when you wear these shoes. Good thing even though it's a one-piece upper, they did make sure they have an easy flap opening for the tongue. The biggest problem with the LeBron 15 was this elastic material. It just didn't work. It's hard to slide your foot in, even hard to get it out. They made the necessary changes in 17, and they're sticking with it, so it's good. In terms of comparison, the cushioning got much better for the 17s, but the forefoot zoom pod, because they're near the outsole, you don't really feel it that much. You just feel like it's a little bit elevated and there's a little bit of shock absorption, but you didn't feel low to the ground. You didn't feel that hugging, pillowy cushioning on the forefoot, even though you do have zoom pods, 2 huge zoom pods on the forefoot. So this is definitely a win for the 18. Its 18 is slightly lower to the ground, and the cushioning is zoom you can feel. But the one part that the 18 loses a lot of points for is lateral stability or anti-inversion mechanisms. Clear outriggers evolved constantly from the 16 to 17. This is near perfection of outrigger. I mean, it could be better, but compared to 15, which is like a crazy ankle breaker, this was a significantly good and very necessary upgrade. But unfortunately, this is going back to 15 in terms of ankle instability. There is no outrigger, and this is not the widest base. And as you can tell, it's a bit of a rounded out around the edges. And it's not like they have crazy traction here either. So this is baffling. Why did they not have an outrigger or a wider base? I mean, LeBron doesn't really get hurt easy. Even if he sprains his ankle, he seems to just tie his shoelace once more harder and then go dunking. So maybe he doesn't need it, but why not? It's baffling. As for the upper, many people talked about these little air pockets on the tongue. They thought it was a cute touch, and I was really looking forward to it as well. Nike made quite a killing with those bags with straps with air soles on it. Whether they worked or not, they look cool, and you like to press on it, and once it got deflated, you feel deflated too. So it's a nice little touch to have air soles, air units here, but it's not even an air sole. It's like a tiny little air pocket. It's not huge. It's just like an air pimple, if you might call it. So there's 3 of them. I don't know what purpose they serve because the laces go around them. So it's not like they're cushioning your foot as the laces go on top of them. Fashion statement, I suppose. The reason why I chose this color over the LA away color that they've had at the stores was that this little air pocket, it's not in all of the LeBron 18. Some models come with just a window and no air pocket. So I mean, if they're the same price, I would really like the air pocket. It just, I mean, more bang for your bucks, I guess. So that's something you might want to consider. Check if they're air pockets or just windows. The lacing system. The lacing system is good. I like the idea of having, it's sort of like the KD 10s where they have this huge laces on the side, right? And the laces will also start from like way from there, lower, closer to the midsole. What they did was they do have some parts where the flywire is as big as the shoelaces themselves. Can you see? Yeah. The flywire is the shoelace. That's how thick it is. So it's good for certain parts, but in these little delicate areas where you might have certain sensations of pinching sensations, because if you're tightening them hard, you're having laces. Okay, shoelaces are pretty thick, right? They're interlocking and pressing on your foot as you tighten them up. So that could be a little abrasive, a little bit of a circulation constrictor, if you may call it. So that's something you might want to consider at the stores. Make sure you lace them up, see if that works for you. Sometimes you might feel this bump is a little bit too big and it's just pressing on your foot too hard. So if that doesn't work for you, then you might want to skip the LeBron 18s just for that. If you're seriously playing basketball in them and you're lacing them up and it hurts, that's a pinching problem that's not going to go away, because there are these fly wire but shoelaces posing as fly wires. They'll hurt you. Also, the toolbox area is a little bit roomy and you can feel a little bit of a dead space here. I mean, it looks sharp, but it does have a bit of a dead space, especially when you lace it up. So I guess one thing you could do is you could create your own lace loops. Like, forget the wires and you start your lace loops closer to your toes so that you have a better lockdown. That's what I usually do with my shoes when they're way too roomy on the toe box, like what I did with the Dame 6. It was crazy roomy, so I added some new laces and they work wonders. They're huge difference makers. So if you're willing to do that homework and you have a problem with the fly wire interlocking with the shoelace where it's too tight, then you're going to have to start making your own shoe lace loops. So that's something you might want to consider. Breathability is pretty similar. They keep changing the name. Knitposit. It's not Knitposit this time. It's more like Battle Knit. I think they came up with another name, Battle Knit 4.5 or something with a digit. But I mean, the Knitposit was such a cute little thing. I mean, my biggest draw to the 17 was the Knitposit, where the TPU yarns are heated and then they're kind of like turn a little liquidy, and they're pressed and formed to show this shiny, firm, rigid exterior, like a Foamposite and yarn or Foamposite and knit combined together. So why did they drop it? I don't know. Maybe it makes the shoe lighter. For size 9, it weighs... It's not that light. It's not that light. It weighs over 470 grams. Wait, I forgot the insoles. I'll add the insoles. Oh, it's 496. That is nuts. So it's close to 500 grams, which is probably a lot heavier than the 17s. No. Okay, 17s are 490. 18s are 496. Wow. So 17s are 490. 18s are 496 grams. So very close to 500 grams. But here's the thing. It doesn't feel that heavy. Probably because something to do with the way the weights are distributed around the shoes. It feels not too bad. It feels just as heavy as 17, if not maybe even slightly lighter than 17. At least that's the feeling I get when I lace them up and put them on both sides of my foot. So again, when it comes to weight, you have to remember the digits are not everything. Sometimes the digits show super light, but the way the weight is distributed in the shoe makes it feel heavier sometimes. So yeah, I think that pretty much sums it up. The traction pattern is good. The heel is a bit of an issue in terms of the traction, durability. I love this little concave little space here to make sure there's a distribution of cushioning and improved cushioning and distribution of force there. The zoom strobel at the core of the Max is a concept, an idea that the Nike tried and succeeded. Pretty much it. Again, a little bit of a dead space on the front. So the width, the shoe, it's actually wider than 17. It feels wider than the 17. So if you've had problems with the 17, or if you went down half a size with the 17, you definitely want to go down half a size with the 18. For me, I went true to size with the 17 and I felt it was a little bit tight and I had to go up half a size. For this, I feel like I can go true to size. But for those with really narrow feet, I think you can afford to go down half a size.